The narrative begins with a video showing someone running desperately inside an old house and being attacked inside a bedroom by something mysterious. The video, which is a recording from a tape found by a man in the ancient forest of Black Hills, is being watched by two young people, James and Lisa, who is recording it with her camera for a future documentary. They see in the video a female and mysterious being who was captured in the reflection of the mirror in the footage. James tells his friend that the woman looks like someone already dead and reminds him of his deceased sister. This video refers to a legend about this forest, and many disappearances were investigated, but nothing was found, including no house or cabin was spotted in the searches. Lisa believes everything is just a tale, but James says that the forest is very extensive and believes that much is still hidden, and one of those things is the house from the recordings. James says that they can investigate a little and begin the searches where it is known the tape was found. At that moment, two more friends arrive at their house, Ashley and her boyfriend Peter. In the next scene, we see Lisa showing the equipment she managed to get for the adventure, such as walkie-talkies for long-distance communication, drones, portable cameras with GPS, and among other essential objects. Later, Lisa records the opening shots of her documentary, which deals with the disappearance of James's older sister when he was a child. She narrates that the woman was making a documentary in the forest near the town of Burkittsville, Maryland, along with some other friends, when they found an old and apparently abandoned house. The discovery was not something good for them because they were surprised by what was there. Sometime later, the documentary tape was found in an isolated part of the forest by an adventurer, and with that, the searches for the missing group began. Days after the disappearances, the searches that were ongoing ceased after nothing was found. In the present, Lisa decided to help her friend James because since he was very young, he longs for answers about his sister's disappearance and wants to know what happened. Lisa continues with her documentary, presenting James's life and his childhood friends who are still part of his life today. One of them is Peter, who knows James because their parents were colleagues in the past and lived together daily. Peter, in his speech, says that he does not remember James's sister, named Heather, but knows that the disappearance deeply affected the family. In the next scene, he says that they will go to the forest in search of finding the mysterious house and discovering the mysteries behind it. Peter states that James kept in touch with the man who found the tape and asked them to guide them to the exact location of the finding. Lisa questions her friend whether the adventure will be worth it, stating that much has been heard about a legend known as the legend of the Blair Witch. James says that he needs to at least try to get something, and if there is something in the forest that answers him something, he will go after finding the answers to Heather's disappearance, even if it has connection with something dark, which he does not believe 100%. Before the start of the journey, the friends go out to a club and enjoy the night with dancing and drinks. The next day, they begin the preparations to go to the forest. They check the functionality of the walkie-talkies, and then Lisa shows the drone that she will take with her to make larger sweeps in the unknown area. The trip begins, and the route is long. After hours on the road, the group arrives near the town of Burkittsville. James says that in the 18th century that region was found and was known as the town of Blair, but since it was abandoned for many decades, they changed the name to what is known today. The group goes to the house of the man who will take them to the forest. When they arrive, they meet Lane and Thalia, responsible for posting the video contained on the found tape. When the group says that they will camp in the forest, Lane says that rumors of the legend of the Blair Witch still circulate. However, James and the others are skeptical about this and decided to go anyway to camp and spend some nights at the place. Seeing their courage, Lane and Thalia ask to follow them on the adventure, since they also want to record more content. After agreeing, the group heads to the forest. They get out of the cars and grab their luggage to begin the trail, eager for the adventure. On the way, being skeptical about legends and haunting tales, Peter questions Lane about the veracity of his mystery videos that he posts on his video platform. Lane, upset with the insinuations of lies, states that they were based on the tales of the oldest inhabitants, where they claimed that something mysterious inhabited the forest and disappearances had connectivity with the legend of the witch. Lane states that there are many testimonies and reports of strange things that many witnessed, and that such beliefs cannot be disregarded. Minutes pass, and Lisa with the others continue recording the route. Thalia tells about something terrifying that happened in a residence in the forest near the town. She talks about a man who took several children to his residence, where they're unexpectedly without plausible explanations, and in a brutal way he finished all of them. Reports said that the madman said he heard voices of an old woman, so it is to imagine that the macabre voice of an old woman ordered him to commit such atrocity before he ended his own life. James says that he studied about the case, and says that his house was destroyed after that, and a network of tunnels was found below the house, but they led nowhere. After a few hours of walking, the group reaches the limits of the town and the area of the Black Hills forest begins. Lane says that before the place had owners, but after the many mysterious tales, no one cares anymore about having land there. They walk a little more, and soon arrive at the place where Lane found the tape, below the roots of a tree. Nothing else was found, except for the fact that the tree is split in half. The journey continues, and Thalia tells the narrative of a family that existed at the beginning of the formation of the new town. The mother stated that she saw a terrifying hand come out of the riverbed and pulled her daughter to the bottom while she was swimming, which for her was something mysterious, but unfortunately caused the daughter's death, since her body was never found. James's group becomes fearful, knowing that they will have to cross the river of the past event. The crossing begins, and fortunately the water level is low. In the middle of the river, Ashley screams, claiming that she injured her foot on something sharp. The others help her cross and provide first aid. Then they set up the tents to camp there. After that, Peter decides to go get firewood alone, trusting in the camera with GPS and the walkie-talkie for communication. Meanwhile, the others launch the drone and direct it high above the treetops. James searches for something like a clearing or a place with cut trees, in search of the house from the video. Finding nothing, they retrieve the device. Later, after dinner, Lisa asks the two new companions who the Blair Witch is. Thalia tells and says a name. She says that a woman from the village of Blair was accused of witchcraft after some children claimed that this woman hurt them to steal some of their blood. The furious villagers captured the woman and tied her without any trial in the depths of the forest at the top of a tree where they hung heavy stones on her legs and arms, and there they left her to die, as punishment for witchcraft committed by her. 6 months later, they returned to look for the witch's body, but found nothing. They deduced that the woman had been devoured by beasts and animals. However, some time later, the residents, when they went hunting, never returned to their homes. Then, unexpectedly, the youths who accused her of witchcraft disappeared. All members of their families were also never seen again. Shortly after, there were not many as before in the village. Terrified and fearful, those who remained decided to leave and abandon what they now believe to be the cursed town. Lane adds that the tales he heard and the stories he read were certain that whoever saw the witch became paralyzed with fear, and others did not survive to tell the stories. However, for something macabre or bad to happen, people must spend a night in the forest. Peter continues without believing in these fabulous tales, and says that he participated in the searches when he was a child, but nothing strange or macabre he perceived, and is there alive to say that everything is just a tale to scare people. Lane corrects him and says that he is still alive. However, he must consider the narrative that was told to them. Then the group goes to their tents and go to sleep. The scene jumps hours later, where it is already late at dawn. James wakes up after hearing noise in the forest, something like branches breaking. Suddenly, a loud, strange noise echoes. James turns on the flashlight and opens the tent. Suddenly, Lisa enters, frightened, fearful of the terrifying noise. For a moment, silence persists. The group begins to communicate, and in Lane's tent, Thalia states that he is not there with her. James shouts for the man, but Lane does not respond. Fearing for their companion's safety, Thalia goes to look for him, and James goes with her. They use the flashlight of their cameras and take the opportunity to record the moment. Things begin to become worrying when the young man gives no sign of presence there. The two walk around the campsite until suddenly Lane appears startled after hearing the previous noises. After the reunion, they return to where the others are. At dawn, when they wake up, they notice that the place where they are is surrounded by macabre totems. Some get scared, while Lane wants to film the situation. One of them remembers that those totems appeared in Heather's footage, and frightened, they consider leaving. Thalia removes one of the totems, and in the next scene we see the group preparing to leave, after noticing that they woke up in the afternoon period, something bizarre, because they never woke up late. On the way back, Lane carries with him an old camera that uses tape to store the scenes, just like the ones Heather used. Minutes ahead, Lisa follows behind him and observes something in his backpack. Upon grabbing it suddenly, she discovers it to be a tube of ropes similar to those that tied the pieces of wood forming the totems. There is a small disagreement, since the duo Lane and Thalia forged this narrative to instill fear in the others so they would believe, but with that, they only make them disbelieve in the macabre tales. The two regret it, but say that the noises of the previous night were real, stating that they were not the ones who caused them. They consider leaving, but discover that they do not know where they are, which makes the others irritated, because they were confident that the two would know the way back. However, they had never even crossed the stream. Furious with them, the group forces them to leave and fend for themselves to find the way back. The situation leaves James without hope of finding something about his sister's disappearance, so they take the trail to return home. A few hours later, they realize that they walked in a circle and are back at the campsite clearing. Thinking that they got lost, they decide to launch the drone. At this moment, Ashley's wounds worsen and cause her much pain. The group decides to camp again there because it is already late to continue, before Peter, furious, removes the totems from the place. When he goes to check his partner's wounds, he realizes that they worsened. Suddenly the wound moves, and the pain bothers the young woman, believing that it was Peter who touched her hard. Finding it strange, Peter goes to ask James for help, who was helping Lisa with the drone. While they talk about what he saw in the wound, the device suddenly stops and falls into the forest, leaving Lisa frustrated. Later, Peter goes out to urinate and get twigs for the campfire, when suddenly he begins to receive signal on the walkie-talkie and asks if it is James. The signal worsens and only static noises echo. Suddenly the flashlight light fails and a strange noise as if someone was near his position frightens him. The noise like moans and then like a beast terrify him and make him run. Desperately, he tries to return to the campsite, but does not find it. Suddenly, he is surprised by a tree that falls on him. James hears the noise and goes out to check and calls for his friend. Peter is trapped under the branches of the tree, when in the darkness something with heavy footsteps walks around him. This terrifies him, and he tries to free himself. However, the unknown creature attacks him. Minutes later, when James finds the fallen tree, he only finds the flashlight, with no sign of his friend Peter. Meanwhile, Lisa is at the campsite, where a camera was placed to record what happens at dawn. Soon after, James arrives, bringing the news of his friend's disappearance, but they trust that he just got lost. Afterwards, they return to the tent. Inside, they begin to hear new sounds of branches breaking and fear what may be there, since Ashley is bedridden, barely able to walk. They go out to check and come across the duo Lane and Thalia, who are dirty, claiming that they have been 5 days without seeing the sun rise and question if they are real. They question what is happening, even when Lisa says that they will no longer fall for the duo's lies. He says that they will die, and he will not stay there to be another victim of the forest. Thalia in turn decides to stay with them. Hours later, Lisa's alarm clock rings, being 7 in the morning. However, in the forest environment, it is still night. Not understanding the situation, the two go out and this time find small piles of stones and more macabre totems, now being much larger than the previous ones. Thalia approaches them suddenly and asks them to leave there as quickly as possible. Soon Ashley joins the group and begins to despair, not seeing Peter among them. Thalia grabs one of the macabre totems and sees that her hair is tied to it. Ashley believes that it was Thalia and Lane who did that, then takes the totem from the young woman's hand and breaks it in half. By doing that, unexpectedly Thalia is suddenly killed, being broken in half, just as happens with what seemed to be her voodoo doll. The scene is terrifying and horrifying. However, the terror does not stop there. One of the tents is dragged into the shadows, and the frightened group runs in panic. The group ends up separating, and in the midst of despair, Ashley gets lost from Lisa and James, who can only hear the young woman's screams. Fearing for their friend's safety, they go out in search of her. Suddenly, the walkie-talkie receives signal, and Peter speaks with a fading voice and asks for help. Then a thunderous noise terrifies Lisa, who closes her eyes in fear. James reassures her and then they continue in the search for their friend. In another place, Ashley is fine and looks for her friends, but luckily finds the drone. She decides to climb the tree even injured to recover the device. She reaches the height of the mini aircraft, but when she was going to grab it, a strange hand grabs her by the arm and pushes her from above. Then her body is dragged by some creature. Meanwhile, rain begins, and the thunder noise muffles the calls for their friend. Sometime later, they hear a loud, agonizing, and terrifying scream of pain. James and Lisa run towards the sound and end up finding the house hidden in the forest. Suddenly, a scream echoes from inside the house, and James believes it is his sister. However, Lisa states that it cannot be Heather. James, without thinking properly, enters the house alone, which has the door suddenly locked. Then, he finds himself in front of several entrances and chooses one of the doors to enter. Lisa considers entering, but retreats. James checks the corridor with some rooms, and in one of them is surprised to see Peter, standing looking at the corner of the wall. A noise attracts him, which makes him lose sight of his friend. Upon hearing footsteps on the floor above, he grabs the stairs and climbs. Arriving at the corridor above, he sees a woman running and hiding in the shadows. He pursues her, but finds nothing when illuminating with the flashlight. He enters one of the rooms looking for what he thinks is his sister. The scene is terrifying and worsens when he decides to check under the bed. As he crouches to look under the furniture, he is surprised when the bedroom door suddenly locks. His flashlight goes out, and with the lightning flashes, he glimpses a female creature inside, but it quickly disappears. Outside the house, Lisa calls for her friend and for Ashley in the forest, but only the sound of rain surrounds her. Suddenly, something haunting happens. Illuminating the surroundings of the house among the trees, she sees a humanoid creature walking in a macabre way towards her. In panic and with no choice, she runs into the house. She observes several entrances and chooses the entrance door that leads to the basement. Even afraid, she goes down in search of James, and there unexpectedly comes across Lane, who is hallucinating and disturbed, states that he must do what she orders, referring to the witch. He suddenly knocks Lisa out and drags her to a small prison pit where he locks her inside. The only probable exit is a narrow underground tunnel with roots. Afraid but not wanting to stay there, uncertain of her future, she enters the muddy path and crawls as far as she can. She gets stuck for a moment and there hears that someone opened the entrance of the hole. Frightened, she struggles to continue crawling. Fortunately, she reaches the exit and after breaking the wooden boards with her dagger, finds herself inside the house. She pushes a piece of furniture to block the exit again, when she is surprised by Lane. This time she acts quickly, striking him with the blade, and thus causing his end. Suddenly, a hand tries to pull her into the hole, but Lisa escapes. She runs to the upper floor and tries to find a room as shelter. However, the creature manifests in front of her. What is perceived is that she has a thin body, with unnatural elongated limbs, evidencing the result of the stones tied to the witch's limbs, causing not her death, but a terrifying deformity. In panic, Lisa runs even further up, being something impossible, since from outside the house has only 2 floors, but she climbs several steps. She passes through a floor where the mirror with the reflection of the macabre woman is seen, just like in the video at the beginning. Passing quickly, she does not notice. Lisa hides inside a room, when suddenly James enters and is happy to see her. They realize that they are in the attic of the house, and suddenly an external lightning coming from outside the house illuminates the region. The scene is not explained, because soon after the creature begins to enter the room, and James's advice is for Lisa to turn to the corner of the wall and not look at the creature, because then it would not touch them. Fear takes over the two, knowing that the creature is behind them. The terrifying moment soon calms, but unexpectedly James begins to hear a whisper that seems to be his sister calling him. He innocently looks back, and the creature drags him. Lisa screams and laments the loss. In the next minute, she courageously grabs her camera and turns it to her back. She becomes even more terrified when she witnesses the deformed creature inside. Knowing what she can do, she guides herself by the camera view so as not to look at the creature. Suddenly, she hears James lamenting for having brought them there. She unfortunately looks and does not show what attacks her. The final scene shows the outcome that awaits those who go seeking explanations about the legend of the Blair Witch, and the recordings left exposed in the forest serve only to attract more and more curious people to a still unknown destiny.